Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I'm Jacob Milham, joined this lovely Sunday afternoon by Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how are things down in Carolina, friend?
The water's still not technically potable, but they're hoping next week, middle of this week, I guess.
Fingers crossed, man.
They were saying the middle of December, and I was like, boy. But now they're like, well, things have been going pretty good, so maybe this week.
Just in time for the pipes to start freezing, right?
Let's not ask for any more trouble, Jacob.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got enough on your plate. Listen, if you're trying to add some more to your Kansas City Royals plate, you can load on up over at royalsreview.com. The rumblings, news, analysis, commentary. I know I'm still trudging through my leadoff man analysis article over there. I'm like 1,200 words deep, and I fear I'm not even close to being done, sadly. So we'll see how that goes. But so only at royalsreview.com. You can also go find Jeremy's great work over there. I am excited for the peak off-season content that we have come to know and love from Hakias, right?
Yeah, so far, what have I given you so far? I gave you what the Royals motto should be this offseason.
Yep.
I got a Michael Garcia season review. And then I got a Chris Bubich season review that just came out yesterday.
There you go.
I think I'm really tempted for my next article to kind of be off topic and to be kind of also the subject of today's Royals review, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll do another player season review.
All right, a little teaser for later on in the show. Speaking of later on in the show, we will talk about what an AL East opponent is doing that could affect the Kansas City Royals down the line. But the big news today, of course, is Brady Singer. He is, listen, we got a little bit of GM talk earlier on this offseason when JJ Picollo called Singer a, quote, lock in the rotation. Well, that didn't last too long because Ken Rosenthal and crew over at The Athletic spoke about how the Cincinnati Reds and Kansas City Royals have been discussing swapping right-handed Brady Singer for infielder Jonathan India. Jeremy, for some reason, like, this doesn't feel like new news, but like, what did you think when you saw this breaking news come up?
It was definitely part of conversations and rumors that were happening last offseason, maybe even the offseason before that as well. So Brady Singer and Jonathan India have both been were both first-round picks in the 2018 draft, and both have been a little disappointing for their hometown teams, but both are players that other teams look at and are like, hey, I would like to have that guy. As we talked about Jonathan India last week, obviously a lot of teams are in on Brady Singer or are interested. I think probably 29 out of 30 teams are interested in Brady Singer, with the Royals, already have him, so they don't need to be interested in him. Starting pitching is hard to find even when it's a little inconsistent, such as in the case of Brady Singer. The thing about the Royals with Brady Singer is that the rotation is a strength for them, and they need batting help, which is something Jonathan India can offer. He's not a superstar, but he does get on base pretty well, and he's got decent power. He's got experience leading off for the Cincinnati Reds. And while he hasn't played third base in the big leagues, that was where he last started in the minors. So he has experience at that position. So it's a trade that makes a lot of sense for both teams, as the Reds are apparently so desperate for pitching that they offered the qualifying offer to Nick Martinez, who, don't get me wrong, he's a good swingman pitcher that I would have wanted the Royals to be interested in if he was going to be a free agent. He's not going to be a free agent. He's going to sign that deal because that's $21 million guaranteed, which is way more than he should have expected to get for a single season's worth of work after the career he has had and the year he had last year. So the Reds want pitching, the Royals want hitting. I think that's a good starting place, but also, like, this is the thing that has been talked about for years now. And even Ken Rosenthal said that a deal wasn't particularly imminent. So it may just be kicking the tires on one or both teams' parts, and there's no serious intent to do the deal. And when JJ Picollo, the other thing that stands out to me is JJ Piccolo saying that Brady Singer's a lock, and we all kind of took that to mean Brady Singer's not getting traded, but maybe he just meant we're not putting Singer in the bullpen if
Maybe
he is
so.
still here. Or maybe it was just a negotiating thing of like, if you want Brady Singer, you're gonna have to pay for him.
Yeah, like we're not going to give him away for pennies on the dollar just because we have plenty of options for the rotation. Yeah, that does make sense. And looking at the financial side of this deal, that makes even more sense. Both players have 2 years remaining of team control. India is slightly cheaper, signed for $5 million this upcoming season. Brady's
The infielder
projected.
versus starting pitcher. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's on the scale, it's appropriate value. So it's a I don't know, like I look at this and I jump on it. Like I'm not begrudgingly making that, or I don't have to convince myself to make this deal. Like this is a deal that even if it's just a 1-for-1 swap, I'm happy with.
yeah, I would be okay with it if it was a 1-for-1 swap. I think that given how hard it is to find pitching, that I think the Royals should get something else, maybe
Probably
like a
so.
lottery ticket guy or kick in some cash. I don't know, but it feels like a 1-for-1 swap would be like the bare minimum of what the Royals should get in that deal. Like the Royals are absolutely not giving up anything beyond Brady Singer for Jonathan India.
No.
And they should probably get at least a little something else in addition. So I don't know if that's right, but that's what my gut is telling me is the case. But maybe I'm overvaluing Brady Singer.
Well, and I put this out on Blue Sky. Like psychology says that when you own something or when you have something, you value it more, even twice as more than the person who's trying to acquire it from you. Like I remember hopping on the Cincinnati fans Reddit page after this news broke, and some of those folks didn't like Brady Singer at all. They were quick to point out some of his drawbacks, and his 2023 season came up a lot, and we've spoken about it before. Brady Singer really outperformed some of his expected metrics this year. So I'm not saying he was lucky. He was good, and he used the infield defense that he had behind him to his advantage. But to say that he's going to go and be like a number 3 starter anywhere else, it's not a certainty, especially when you look at Great American Ballpark there for the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, shoot, him against some lefties in that ballpark, it's going to be absolute fireworks, man.
So one thing that would really, I think, should appeal to the Reds about Brady Singer is he is a ground ball pitcher.
Correct.
So keep that ball in the ground in Great American Ballpark. Just for fun, I pulled up a baseball trade value simulator,
And
and Brady Singer surplus value is 18 million, and Jonathan India's is 15. So
okay,
again, that's a trade that is like, if you do that 1-for-1, it is a very small overpay for the Royals, but like you can do that. That's okay if you do that, especially if you're the Royals and you're trading from a position of strength to
hmm
add to a position of weakness. I think that makes a lot of sense if they did do that. But if they could get like, just give me a little something, give me a little tiny something else, I think that would be better.
okay, absolutely. And before we get into, well, how does this affect the current Royals and things like that, I do want to point out Jonathan India fits what the Royals need, at least at the plate, excellently, I think is the correct word for this. 97th percentile in walk rate this past year, walked at a nearly 13% clip, doesn't chase, doesn't whiff. And I mean, when you look at his ex-WOBA, 87th percentile, like in all metrics that I can see, he is a well above average batter, but a very good leadoff candidate for the Kansas City Royals if he copied and pasted his performance from 2025 or 2024 to 2025, excuse me. Um, Jeremy, the quick response from Royals fans though was like, well, why do we need another second baseman? Like, why?
Need a third baseman. That's what I'm telling you. Jonathan India can do that.
Right. And I would be interested to see if the Royals tried to make that move, because I will say when we were looking at Michael Garcia making the shift to third base way back when, We were desperate for anything over there. My concern about Garcia was his arm strength. That was my concern.
An issue for him.
No, not an issue for him. If you go and you look at Jonathan India's MLB career, though, that has been an issue. His arm strength is not great. Ninth percentile for
All
arm
right.
strength.
So what about Massey?
Massey, maybe I don't have his baseball savant page pulled up, but
Pull that up.
yeah, go. Are you telling me to, or are you pulling it?
I'm doing it.
All right, sounds good. So that
and his arm strength's not great either.
So, like, I don't know if they would try to shoehorn one of those two into third base. I don't know if they would try to make a super platoon because India is a righty, Massey is a lefty. Maybe that's the approach they go.
You could easily do versus righties, India at third, Massey at second, and versus lefties, India at second, Garcia at third.
Yeah.
And kind of do a quasi platoon that way. But the fact of the matter is that unless you want to pay for a star, which the Royals probably don't want to do, you're going to have to sacrifice some defense to add some offense.
Yeah, that's true. Because the fact of the matter is, I know in a perfect world, the Royals would go and add a leadoff candidate that plays left field. Okay, we talked about Jurickson Profar, and we spoke about how volatile he is. He's kind of the only guy that I look at and say he could be the leadoff man and opening day starter in left field. There's not a whole lot of folks that fit the mold that the Royals need right now, and like you said, they're going to have to sacrifice a little to get a little. Thankfully,
and if you get a Profar, he's not a great defender in left either.
No, he's not. So it's a give and a take. Where are you willing to subtract a little bit? And I think I would have to think that the Royals are comfortable enough with Massey at second and Bobby at short that, okay, we can have a average, slightly below average even guy over at third base, and if his bat plays, then we're good. Is that kind of where you're at too, Jeremy?
I mean, I've argued so many times that I think defense is kind of overrated, especially by Royals fans. The Yankees weren't a super. They put Aaron Judge in center field. Okay, they said we need that bat. Juan Soto's a right fielder, so let's figure out how we make this work. Aaron Judge, best bat in the league, not a good defender. Not a good defender in right field. He's a bad defender in center field. It's still stunning to me that catch he made against Bobby Witt Jr., I think it was in game 1 of the ALDS, that should have been a triple and instead was an out. Like, even bad defenders make good plays sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if there is any more progress on this trade specifically. These are two teams that are, I wouldn't say at the same level, but they are at similar levels. Like the Reds had the Reds had a lot of positives from this past season. They are one or two pieces away from being where the Royals were in 2024.
Maybe. I don't know. The Royals were in the toughest division in baseball last year.
Surprised all of us.
3 of the 6 playoff teams came from the AL Central.
I know.
And a 4th was right outside.
Yep.
And sorry to say, the NL Central was not as tough, and the Reds still couldn't find their way in. So I feel like the Reds are maybe further from the Royals than it might appear at first glance.
Okay. Their expected win-loss 82-80 in 2024. That's where they're at. They just got pretty unlucky sometimes.
I mean, maybe they're closer than I think they are, but I'm not putting them in the same rank as the Royals right now. Though, to be fair, it's funny because the Royals, I want to say they were lucky because of the injury stuff, but they were also unlucky because their expected win losses would have had them at like 90 wins or 89, 90s.
Yep, 91 and 71.
Yeah. Oh, so 90. Yeah. So it's like they were lucky on the injuries, but they were unlucky on the wins that they earned with the guys that they had. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is.
And the two teams, they're losing players and gaining players next year. So a lot of it is, and we've talked about this too, is Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be very good. I would think, in 2025. Will he be 10 WAR good? That's very hard to do. It's very hard to duplicate that. Possible, very hard. I'm not counting on.
No, possible, not probable. There is a difference.
So you drop 3 wins right there. Just from Bobby Witt Jr. not being quite as good, still being a superstar, still being an MVP candidate, not quite as good. And that changes things. You got to add those 3 wins. And then, if you're wanting to improve, you've still got to add more wins.
Right. And that's one way where they want to add in the leadoff spot, however they can. Because in this, listen, I'm trying to do a lot of math for this leadoff article. All right. I'm trying something new. I'm trying not to just go with gut feelings and tired old sayings and things like that. I'm trying to dive into the math a little bit more. And if you look at it, let's say the leadoff man gets first out every single game. All right, that is you drop 99 runs right there, just according to the expected runs matrix. Yeah. The leadoff man is valuable. Really is. Really, really is. So
when you say numbers, I was thinking the Royals had one of the worst OBPs from the leadoff spot last year. And when you're talking 600 some odd plate appearances, changing that by 10 or 20 or 10, 20 points, so that's 1 or 2%, is still like 10, 20 base runners.
Yeah, exactly.
In front of your 3 guys who were just driving in runners like crazy. The offense was good. You had 20 more runs to that offense. They win a few more games.
Exactly. And at the very least, if we look at 2025, then that is how they cover that difference of Bobby, quote unquote, regressing a little bit when it comes to FWAR. More numbers real quick. So we talk about WRC plus a lot on this podcast. If you don't know, league average WRC plus is represented by 100. League average asset in your lineup is how I look at it. The Royals from the leadoff spot, worst in the league when it comes to WRC plus, 66.
Yeah.
So your guys are 30.
That's the by definition, that's the position that comes up the most often throughout the season.
Correct. Exactly. And you go and they are 8 points worse than the next team. Like, they were the worst by a wide margin. They need to do anything they can to improve at the leadoff spot. And if sacrificing Brady Singer is the way to do it, then so be it. At least you are getting 2 more years of Jonathan India. And I don't know, maybe Jose Alguacil, he had a great story with Salvador Perez, making that transition to first base look pretty dang seamless, I would say. Maybe he could do something with Massey or India moving over to third base. But I'm not going to worry about that until we actually see it on the transaction wire. If you want to keep tabs on all this stuff, you need to go check out royalsreview.com. I'm sure we're going to be diving into it if this trade happens. If it doesn't, we have to be looking at all options to improve this team ahead of 2025. And that's what we're doing over at royalsreview.com. So make sure you follow along with the Royals Review on Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky as well. royalsreview.com. Twitter, honey. Royals Review. Apparently I didn't say it enough, Jeremy.
All right.
I needed to say it one more time. So, unfortunately, that has kind of been the big news from the Royals the past half week. We're very much in this winter lull that happens in MLB offseason. It happens. It's all right. We will know a little bit more about the awards this upcoming week. But one thing that I did want to make sure our listeners knew about is the Rule 5 draft. So it's not this week, but the Royals have to start looking at who they are going to protect, right? Because as of November 19th, teams have to set their 40-man roster. Any player who is eligible for the Rule 5 draft and not added to the organization's roster by this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern will be available to be selected by another organization. and the draft itself takes place on December 11th. And Jeremy, did I send you the list
You
of
did not.
guys? So the Royals have 5 top 30 prospects who are Rule 5 draft
Right?
eligible. So this is going to be a little interesting. We've talked about Noah Cameron a lot on this podcast, so he's probably going to get added.
I expect him to pitch in the big leagues sometime next year, so it just makes sense to go ahead and add him now.
For sure. Chandler Champlain, the number 16 prospect in the Royals system. Yeah, he's another guy that he was hampered with injuries last year. But
I could see them leaving him off and see what happens. They have a lot of spots, so you can add him. But if you add him and then you want to sign a free agent or you want to trade a minor league, then you got to take him back off. And then it's like, okay, well, does somebody grab him then? Not Rule 5. I feel like he's a guy that you can leave Rule 5 and somebody might grab him, but they'll probably send him back.
Probably so, because then they have to keep him on the 26-man roster. And is he ready for that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think he quite is. But like a guy like Noah Cameron, I think he is. I think he's ready for that spot.
Who else you got?
I got Lunder Avila. He's
That's an interesting case.
Yeah, he's the number 26 prospect, but man, he had a really good fall.
He was very mediocre last year, but a very good fall. So he's a guy I think I probably would add because of his Arizona Fall League performance, because I feel like he's a guy that you might lose based on that.
I think so as well.
Before that, you might have left him off and been okay.
Right. Hey, next guy up, Tyson Guerrero. So I know friend of the podcast, Preston Farr, is a really big Tyson Guerrero fan.
I don't even know what position he plays.
He's a left-handed pitcher.
Okay.
If you go and pull up his MLB.com profile, he has an above average fastball, above average changeup, above average slider, a 60 grade on that slider. The changeup is the only thing holding him back, according to their write-up. But
what's his name? Tyson Guerrero, you said?
Yeah, Tyson Guerrero. If you could look up his Fangraphs stuff.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that would be nice. Last one. Well, actually, no. Let's go and pull up Tyson's stuff because I don't want to.
He's not. He doesn't even have a what's that called? A prospect preview on Fangraphs. He had an 8.71 ERA, a 7.39 FIP, a 6.94 xFIP in AAA last year.
Yeah.
Even on strikeouts and walks, it's not a big sample. It's only 5 starts, 20.2 innings, and he was okay in AA with a 3.69 ERA and he's good strikeouts, 9.59 strikeouts to 3.78 walks in AA last year. Not a guy I'm worried about saving.
Okay.
Probably not going to get grabbed. Probably not ready. So if you can keep working with him, great. Maybe the stuff is there. But those numbers do not tell me a story of a guy who's ready to pitch in the big leagues anytime soon.
Okay. All right. I don't disagree with that at all for what it's worth. Last guy up is another guy who I think will not get protected, Eric Sarantola, the Royals number 29 prospect on their top 30 list. Sarantola, I wouldn't say I was like high on him, but I was just like, okay, maybe there's something here. He was a 5th round pick back in 2021. The fastball is really good. The curveball's pretty solid. Just the control isn't there.
He walks a lot of guys.
He does. But he had a solid overall year in 2024. So, I mean, I think he's a guy that an organization can squint at and say, well, like maybe he's our low leverage guy and we see what happens.
He does feel like a guy who you might kind of in the same vein as the Royals Rule 5 draft pick last year.
Matt Sauer, yeah.
I can't remember his name now all of a sudden.
Matt Sauer.
Yeah. So kind of in the vein of him where he's like, he's got some good stuff. He has no control, but maybe we could pitch him in the late innings or, in blowouts. But the difference between Sarantola and Sauer is that Sauer ultimately projected as a starter. So it's like we get him into our organization. Yeah, he's not going to pitch much this year, but we get him into our organization. We work with him. Maybe we have a starter. Sarantola's a reliever.
Yeah.
So he's not a guy that you're like, gotta have that guy. So I don't think you necessarily need to add him or worry about him, though we might see him pitch in the big leagues next year.
We might. So those are the 5 top 30 prospects that the Royals might be worried about protecting. There are plenty of other names that folks are going to recognize that are Rule 5 eligible. Guys, I'm sorry, excuse me. I had it all pulled up and then it went away. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Guys like Tyler Tolbert, I mean, he was winning organizational awards for a hitter of the year. He is Rule 5 eligible. John Rave, Peyton Wilson, River Town, those are all guys that are Rule 5 eligible. He was Rule 5 eligible last year and nothing happened. Asa Lacy, the former top pick from the Royals, is also Rule 5 eligible. And listen, like there's a lot of talent in any organization that's going to be available in the Rule 5 draft. It's all about if teams can look at those players and say, can they stick on the 26-man roster? Matt Sauer had his, well, I don't even know if he had his moments. Like he looked okay at times, but I mean, he didn't even last like a third of the season, right?
Yeah, he was looked like he had really good stuff for the first couple outings. And like you could maybe live with the walks, and then they tried to like give him a little bit more, and then he just fell apart.
Yeah. So all in all, Royals have to make a decision by this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see what they do. I mean,
so you have my predictions: Noah Cameron and Luinder Avila.
Yeah, and
everybody else stays off.
As of right now, they have 6 open spots on the 40-man roster. I think they add Cameron, I think they add Champlain, and I think they add Avila. So I'm a little bit more protective, a little bit more selfish, if you will, of those top 30 prospects. But we'll see. We'll keep tabs on things over at royalsreview.com. So make sure you go give us a follow over there. Over at royalsreview.com. Thank you, honey. She's trying to help. She is. All right, talking about the AL East. So why the heck are we talking about the AL East on a Royals podcast? Well, one of the most frustrating and funniest things in baseball over the past couple of years has been the weird wall in Camden Yards. That left field wall was just the bane of so many batters' existence, but it hurt the Orioles a lot too. Watching some of those balls in play against the Orioles in the wild card series, like that'd be a home run in a lot of spots, but not in Camden Yards. So as of right now, they are moving the wall closer to home plate, like a lot closer, about 20 feet closer in some spots.
My goodness,
home plate. Yeah. So according to the Baltimore Banner, the move comes after the baseball operations department realized the wall had become something of a, quote, distraction for hitters, particularly right-handed batters. I think distraction's an interesting word there.
They are the other AL East stadium news.
No, what? Rays?
The Rays will be playing in the Yankees spring training stadium next year.
Exactly. So that'll, you know what? I don't even know if the Royals should be traveling down there to play them.
Yeah. The current setup is you play everybody in your league. You play a home away series with in your division. I think it's 2 home, 2 away.
Mm-hmm.
And then your interleague rival, you play a home away, and then you play a home or an away with everybody else in the interleague.
Okay. Gotcha. So, listen, I'm not worried about that one bit. The Rays couldn't sell out Tropicana. They might not be able to sell out Steinbrenner.
Yeah, the interesting thing will be, because it is an outdoor stadium,
right?
How many rainouts they end up having.
Yeah, a lot of those pop-up summer storms down there in Florida. You never know what you're going to get. So it could cause a lot of headaches down the road. I pulled up some other numbers. Back to the Camden Yards stuff.
Yeah.
So the deeper wall in left cost Baltimore hitters 72 home runs since it was extended. But
do you have how many opponent home runs it cost?
Yeah, it subtracted 65 opponent home runs. So overall, the Orioles lost out more, but they a lot less home runs on both sides of the coin there, Jeremy. So we'll see how this affects things in 2025. It is going to be ready for 2025. That's so that should be fun.
Yeah, we're not talking about rebuilding an entire roof. We're just talking about moving some walls.
Right.
That's something that can be done in an off season.
Exactly. And I think according to the Baltimore Banner, the cost is roughly about $3 million. Oh, it's not. And
I guess the team's paying for that. I hope.
Let's see here. How do we want to word this? Give me 1 second. It's by a state authority. I don't know how Maryland runs things, but they're getting the money sent to them by, quote, the club's rent to cover the cost on the project. It's a discount on their rent, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. We love that. So that should be interesting. We'll see if that helps out the Orioles at all. Hey, I have no clue how Steinbrenner Field is set up.
Can you imagine renting your home, Jacob, and then you decide to knock out a wall, and then you're like, I'm gonna take a discount on my rent because I knocked out a wall in this rental home.
Oh,
does that seem like a thing that would work for you as a rental home renter?
No, not at all.
Okay, just checking. Yep.
And I could be misinterpreting that. I will give myself that grace. I could be misinterpreting it, but that's what the freaking article says. Go check it out on the Baltimore Banner. I have no clue how Steinbrenner Field is set up. I really, really don't, other than it's an outdoor field and it has Yankees stuff everywhere. So I hope
it's going to be much, much smaller than an MLB stadium as in terms of capacity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, the capacity is about 12,000, but I mean that's what the Rays were nearly averaging last year. So they're home,
and then it's going to go down because they're not even in Tampa Bay.
Right. Exactly. And they're going to be outside in Florida.
Who wants that?
That sounds pretty gross to me personally. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how the infrastructure changes and, MLB players playing down there in Steinbrenner Field. It's going to be a weird trip for some of these longtime MLB guys to be going back down to AAA in a sense when it comes to facilities and amenities. I'm just
reminds me of when the Chargers were moving to Los Angeles and they were playing in the soccer stadium for a year or two.
Right. We'll see, like the Chargers, they couldn't even pack that. Remember that?
It's still mostly Chiefs fans. Exactly. I don't watch most Chargers games. I watch when the Chiefs go down there. That's the Chiefs. It's like another Chiefs home game. It's hilarious.
Pretty much. All right, Jeremy. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything to add, Royals related today?
Oh, there was one other thing. I thought we were gonna talk about free agent pitchers.
Man, do we want to save that for next time?
We can, I guess. I was just going to give a general kind of overview of it, but yeah.
Well, no, shoot. Do you have something ready?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Just basically, the Royals are in a really interesting position. We dug deep into specific guys that we wanted to see potentially as free agents as far as hitters. But when it comes to pitching, the Royals are in a really good position where all of their best pitchers from last year are back again this year without any reason to think that they're going to be good. They're going to add some depth in the form of guys like Jamie Wright is going to become available, who wasn't there last year. Noah Cameron, as were talking about earlier, is a guy who's potentially going to pitch next year. They added the reliever to the 40-man roster already, Sisk.
Yep.
Is that his name?
Sisk. Yep.
Evan Sisk. So, they've got some reinforcements coming. They're in a position where we don't expect or really necessarily want them to play in the deep end. Like Corbin Burns is a free agent. Would Corbin Burns improve the Royals? Probably. But you're at the point of kind of diminishing returns if you go and get a Corbin Burns. Yeah. It's the opposite of the whole thing where I was talking about, okay, if you replace MJ Melendez in left field, you're replacing something very bad. If you replace him with average, that's a huge jump. Mm-hmm. If you replace even an Alec Marsh or a Chris Bubich in rotation with Corbin Burns, yeah, you're better, but I don't know that you're as much better as if you replace MJ Melendez with with a slightly above average hitter in left field. Okay, so like I don't expect them to spend a ton of money there. There's a few guys. I would like to see them bring in at least one kind of swing pitcher, kind of a Michael Lorenzen type or a Nick Martinez type, if he hadn't been given the qualifying offer. Do not give up a draft pick to bring that guy in. Not
Heck
worth
no.
it.
No.
As much as I'm like, yeah, go ahead and give up the draft pick. Not for him.
Nope. Not at all.
So they might want to look for, I think they're probably looking for a Michael Lorenzen type of swing reliever starter kind of guy, and maybe like a guy who's gonna get a little underpaid, a little undervalued for the back end of the bullpen. One guy who keeps getting rumored to the Royals that just feels like an amazing fit is Clay Holmes.
Yeah.
As a guy who pitched really well last year, but took a lot of flack for the blown saves, which was just kind of a weird thing. Reminds me of a little bit of James MacArthur or a Joaquin Soria in his second tour in Kansas City, where it's like he was pitching really well, just not getting the saves for some reason.
Yeah.
Now, James MacArthur also pitched really poorly at times, but there were times that he was pitching fine and just wasn't working. So I could see them potentially getting Clay Holmes at a little bit of a discount compared to how good he is. And you've already got Lucas Erceg as your closer. So then you bring in Clay Holmes as like a backup closer where you're like, you may not even need to save games. You can just be a lights out back end reliever. So that just kind of give an overview of what the Royals are probably looking at doing with pitching. I would be very surprised if they didn't add any pitching, but they don't need to play at the top of the market right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. They don't need to be playing at the top of the market for starting pitching. That's for sure. I think that they will take a couple of lottery tickets, like guys that have flashed with other clubs, but just didn't have the roster flexibility to stick with that current club. I would like them to be playing in the deeper end when it comes to relief pitching. I really would. Like Clay Holmes is, I would consider him on the deeper end of that market. Now, no, I'm not going to go out there and advocate for a reunion with Aroldis Chapman. Okay,
Please don't.
I don't know how I feel about Tanner Scott.
I love Tanner Scott. You know, the question is, I feel like he's going to get paid more than he's necessarily worth. Which again, you know, if they go out and sign him, cool, great. I'd love to have Tanner Scott on this team, but also, if you sign him, I better see two really good hitters in addition to him.
Yeah.
Like if you want to spend all that money, go for it. But don't tell me, well, we spent all our money on Tanner Scott, so we didn't bring in any hitters.
Yep.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that.
We don't need that message right now. Some other guys that I don't think they're going to get underpaid, but I think that they help out this team a lot. Chris Martin, formerly with the Boston Red Sox. I know he's older, but I mean the guy's been pretty dang valuable. He's got 4 FWAR across the last 3 years as a relief pitcher. Like he's been really consistent, and he gets a ton of strikeouts. He really, really does. He's if you want to look at a wily veteran, I think it's Chris Martin. I think he does a lot to help this team, and plus he's ready to compete.
Holy cow, he doesn't walk anyone.
No one. Another guy I like, Yimi Garcia, not had a whole lot of chances to close for his respective team, so he's a good setup man. Another guy who's one of the younger guys out there in free agency that I would like the Royals to look at is Caleb Ferguson. I know he's another lefty, and it feels like the Royals are a little lefty heavy right now, but that really depends on if Chris Bubich and Daniel Lynch stick in the bullpen. If they don't, then I think the Royals need to add at least 1 or 2 lefties on the free agent market, and Ferguson would be a guy that I would like them to look at.
Chris Martin is the one I like the most out of that group because I feel like he's not going to get paid anything as a 38-year-old reliever. He might get he might get paid okay, but he's also not in the top 50 prospect or top 50 free agents on what's it called? MLB trade rumors. Yeah. By the way, they also, I'm just seeing now they're reporting Nick Martinez is going to accept that qualifying offer from the Reds. So like we're not crazy there. when you get to the 50, you're talking 1 year 7, 1 year $8 million deals at the end of this thing, and that's for the top 50. So Chris Martin doesn't make the top 50. So give him 1 year 5. I would do that for that reliever. If it doesn't work, okay, well, you tried. It's Chris Stratton again.
Frickin' do. We'll see what happens. But if you want, you got to keep tabs on all the Royals stuff over at RoyalsReview.com. Jeremy, speaking of Royals Review, why don't we do some Royals reviews, shall we?
Sure.
All right, go ahead and start us off. You're the one teasing your review.
Yeah, so over the weekend, I had a friend over and we decided to watch Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And man, that was not good. That was bad. That was and here's the honest to goodness truth. I am the target audience for that movie because I am the person who has watched all of these Marvel movies, who watched the Ben Affleck Daredevil, who watched Elektra, who watched the Wesley Snipes Blade movies, who follows casting news enough to know that Channing Tatum was cast as Gambit in some random Marvel project at some point. Like, I am the person who knows who all of these cameos are. It was not. It was a movie that was like a bunch of cameos. There was no plot. There were no characters. There was just, hey, look at this cameo. Isn't that cool? And there was also like, hey, look, we're going to have this fight that everyone's been wanting us to have, like Deadpool versus Wolverine. Everyone wants that, apparently. Well, you cut it up so bad, I can't tell what's going on. And then you're like, okay, here's Wolverine versus Sabretooth, which I know is a fight everyone has been wanting. They did a Sabretooth cameo from the original X-Men movie. Let's do that. Okay. Well, nope, that fight was over in half a second. Cool. Excellent. Very good. And just like the fight scenes, because Marvel always chops up their fight scenes real bad, so you can't tell what's going on. And this was worse than normal. And there was, so what you have to do is, if you're not going to have really cool fight scenes, is you have to have really cool reasons for the fight scenes. And they just didn't. They were just like, yeah, isn't this cool nerd stuff? Like, the nerds want this, right? Well, no, I want a reason for it. Like, there's a reason why Wolverine and Sabretooth in the comic books are fun to watch fight. There's all kinds of history and character clashing that happens there that doesn't happen in this movie. I'm the one who watched the Fantastic Four movies with Chris Evans as the Human Torch. So like, I'm all in. I'm the one who knows what all of these cameos are, where they came from, what they mean. And I was still just so bored. Like, when the cameos happened, I was like, cool, look at that. That's kind of fun. And then I was like, okay, but what about the rest of the movie?
Expecting this review from you, Jeremy. I really
I was very displeased. Gotta be honest with you.
All right.
Just not a good time. Have I reviewed Agatha All Along? I don't remember.
So
all right, I'll do that one another time then.
Because I talk about that one.
I'm a super Marvel mark. I watch every Marvel dang thing. And I just want them to be good, please.
While we're talking about things streaming on Disney Plus, I guess I'll review something that's on Disney Plus.
All right.
I hate that I'm reviewing this, Jeremy. I really do, but I have to. So, her and her mom are living with us right now. Be up here next month, but a lot of Bluey lately.
Yeah, that's what all my friends talk about.
You know what? Worth it. It's a good fun show. You know what? There's good lessons, there's good stories, and it's like, I mean, Honey's even over here chuckling to the shows. Like, it's entertaining her too. I remember that was always a gripe growing up because my brother, he's 8 years younger than me, so I remember like periods of watching new Disney Channel shows with him. It was like Little Einsteins and Wonder Pets and stuff like that. Like that, and it seemed like everyone likes Bluey. So
I watched a handful of episodes. It's a charming, cute little show. I know I have friends who are obsessed with it as adults. Apparently, is Everybody loves it. I've not heard anyone say no. Bluey sucks.
I think that's the right word for it. It's charming. I'm gonna sit down and binge Bluey, but if I have to watch a children's show, it's gonna be Bluey. My review for this week. Jeremy, last call, man. Anything else before we get on out of here?
Nah, I think I've said enough for today.
Save some stuff for next time.
Sure.
Folks, that is going to do it for us today on the Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Jacob Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. If you want to follow along with us on social media, our links are down in the podcast description below. I'm more on Blue Sky now. I'm waiting on Jeremy to get his act together.
Okay, so I tried to go to Blue Sky last time. Everyone was like, oh, Musk bought Twitter, we're all going to Blue Sky. So I went to Blue Sky. I'm the one that gave you your invite code because back then they were still invite only. And I went to Blue Sky and nobody was there. And I was like, screw this. So I deleted my account and went back to Twitter. Well, now everyone's actually going to Blue Sky. And I'm like, all right, so let me back on. And I'm like, can I get my account back? They're like, no, it's deleted. I'm like, all right, let me create a new one. They're like, that account, that username is in use. I'm like, give me my account back, Blue Sky. So I've been sitting here waiting on their customer support for a week to tell me, like, what do I need to do to get my username back? And then I will be on Blue Sky. I do still believe that a lot of the people moving off of Twitter to Blue Sky are performative, but also my understanding is that Twitter is updating its terms of service so that Grok can just steal all your tweets. And so I haven't been tweeting on there. I don't know if any of y'all out there are following me on there. I have not been tweeting. I don't really feel like it. And nobody I follow is on there anymore. So I'm going to move to Blue Sky, not because now that Trump has won the 2024 election, I can't support Elon Musk. It's just, well, everybody I want to follow is over there. So I'm going to go over there where all the people I want to follow are.
When Ken Rosenthal and Zimborski started posting more on Blue Sky than they were on Twitter, I was like, yeah, it's time to move. Time to get on going over to Blue Sky. But that's where I'm at for the most part.
The football podcast that the only weird games, all those Briscoe and Nate have moved over there. I don't know if Seth has yet, but he's always a little slow on that stuff, so that's fine. But yeah, so it's just everybody's over there, so I'm gonna try and get my butt over there. I'm gonna go bother Blue Sky support again. I just gotta, and I know they're busy because everybody's moving over there right now. But yeah.
Oh, there you go. So for listening to us rant about Royals baseball for a little while, the best place if you want to read about our rants is at royalsreview.com. Plus, you can follow along with them on social media. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Blue Sky as well. Royals Review. All right. Thank you all for joining us. And until next time, go Royals!